Peace, everybody. What's good? It's that boy, Coach Malachi Williams, and you've been number tuned to True Media Today USA Boxing. Let's go.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All right, everybody, check this out. Now, we did find out yesterday or the day before yesterday that Errol Spence did activate his rematch clause with Terence Crawford. Now, a lot of people, even myself, sit back and say, what is it that Errol Spence can do differently in this fight? So let's just break everything down. Now, before the fight started, everyone said that Terence Crawford, all of the guys who picked Errol Spence to beat Terence Crawford, they said Terence Crawford was chinny, right? He can't take a punch. Gamboa hurt him, right? Come to find out Errol Spence is chinny. He got dropped 3 times. And every time Terence Crawford was hitting him with that jab, his legs was getting weak. So we know he's chinny. He got dropped 3 times and he got stopped. So that's proof he's chinny. Okay, number 2, they said Errol Spence is more fundamentally sound. Come to find out, that fundamentally sound shit did not help him. As a matter of fact, Terence Crawford looked more like the fundamentally sound fighter more so than Errol Spence. So we know that's not true. So let's check that box. Number 3, they said that Errol Spence had a better jab. Come to find out, that ain't it. We already talked about the jab. But come to find out, they said that Errol Spence had more power than Terence Crawford. Come to find out, he did not have more power than Terence Crawford. Then they turned around and said that Errol Spence is the bigger, stronger fighter. Well, we saw July 29th, he was not the bigger, stronger fighter. He was the weaker fighter of the two. And to come to find out, he did not have the higher ring IQ. Let's look at footwork. Errol Spence's footwork is terrible. He has terrible balance, and he doesn't have the footwork that Terence Crawford has. So let's just check that out. So from a footwork standpoint, he doesn't have that. Speed. When it comes to speed, Terence Crawford has faster hands than Errol Spence. Has better speed, and he has better timing. His timing is better than Errol Spence. So let's check that out of the way. Now, Terence Crawford can fight on the front foot, which we did see when he fought Errol Spence, and he can fight on the back foot, which we did see. One thing we did know, that Errol Spence can't fight on the back foot. And then when Terence Crawford sat right there in the pocket with him and was catching and shooting, he could not handle that because he could not get back fast enough defensively in order to block the shots that was coming back to him from a counterpuncher standpoint. So when you look at everything, all of the things that they said that were Terence Crawford's weaknesses, sorry about that, guys, come to find out to be Errol Spence's weaknesses. And all of the things that you guys said that were Errol Spence's strengths turned out to be Terence Crawford's strengths. So now, what is it that he can do differently? Well, he's not going to outbox Terence Crawford. He's not going to outthink him because Terence Crawford is a thinking fighter. He's not going to outthink him. His ring IQ is not on the level of a Terence Crawford. Now, if it's one thing, if he had like a Ugas or a Danny Garcia, some guy that's just going to sit there flat-footed and sit in the high guard and let him punch on him, then that's something different. But Terence Crawford is not that type of fighter. So now, all of the aerosexuals who felt some type of way, who was in shock, and some people are still in shock, the question you have to ask yourself is this. Do you still want to go through the trauma of seeing your boy get knocked out again in December? You was already traumatized from the first fight. Are you really that much of a pain freak that you want to see this again? Now, I want to see the fight again because I enjoyed the first fight, and I believe I'm going to enjoy the second fight even more. I think that Errol Spence, he's a good fighter. He's not a great fighter, but he's a good fighter. Really, really, really good fighter. Mr. Fundamentals, work behind the jab, fundamentally sound, all of those things that these guys were saying before the fight, guess what? Guess what? All that shit didn't do no good fighting Crawford. See, when you're dealing with a guy who has a hammer, and he brings a hammer to a gunfight, and that's all he has in his toolbox, the hammer is good as long as you're dealing with nails. But then when you don't have a nail in front of you, and you have a monkey wrench, you have grip pliers, you have all these different tools, a socket set, you have a hammer jack, you got all these different tools. You got one guy, mechanic, he has a bunch of tools in his toolbox, and then you have another mechanic, he only has one tool. The hammer is good when you're facing a bunch of nails, right? So from a stylistic standpoint, I don't see anything he can do differently. He's not going to outthink Terence Crawford. He's definitely not going to outbox him. He's not going to be bouncing around on his toes. He's going to fight the way he normally fights. At 154, he's going to be bigger and stronger. Only problem with that is, at 154, Terence Crawford is going to be bigger and stronger. So it's not like Terence Crawford's not going to be bigger. It's not like he's not going to be stronger. So that's the issue you're going to have. I got bucked by knockout. I don't think Terence Crawford would carry Errol Spence this time. He carried him up to the 9th round last fight. I seriously doubt he carry him this time. I think he's going to get him out of there a little bit more faster because he has something to prove. Since everyone is discrediting him right now, I think right now he has to prove that the first fight wasn't a fluke. We're going to see. So if Crawford stop him again, then it'll answer. Well, you know what? It just wasn't a fluke. This guy has your number. You get what I'm saying? They're going to do VADA testing again. There was VADA testing in the first fight. There will be VADA testing in the second fight. So this is the reality of the situation. That's the question you have to ask. You guys have to ask yourself. And also, will anybody bet on Errol Spence? If you're looking to bet on him, online, the same rule applies. You have to send the money to me to the Cash App. We put the bread up first. If I lose, you get paid that night. If not, if I don't lose, then guess what? I keep the money. That's online. In the street, we ought to know what time it is. My homies and stuff like that. But other than that, that's it. There's nothing that he's going to be able to do differently. I'm glad he took the rematch. I'm glad that this is another big payday fight for Spence. Spence is the B side in this fight now. He's the B side. He has to acquiesce to whatever Terence Crawford says. So if Terence Crawford agrees to fight him at 154, so be it. They'll probably drop the belts and then transition into fighting Canelo. So I don't see anything different that he's going to do. But that's what you guys got to ask yourself. From a footwork standpoint, does Errol Spence have an advantage? No. From a speed standpoint, does Errol Spence have an advantage? No. From a strength standpoint, meaning stronger, does he have an advantage? No. He's not the stronger fighter. Actually, Errol Spence is the weaker fighter out of the two. From a ring IQ standpoint, does he have an advantage? No. From a punching power standpoint, does he have an advantage? No. From a defensive standpoint, does he have an advantage? No. From an offensive standpoint, does he have an advantage? No. From a timing standpoint, does it have an advantage? No. What does he have an advantage at in this fight? He doesn't have an advantage at anything. Maybe he might be a little bit bigger. Outside of that, that's it. And you see what that size did to him. Just because you big don't mean you're the stronger fighter. Don't mean anything. Hate, like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later on today, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You know my motto. Don't beat me there, beat me there. Peace. Also, don't forget to sign up to my newsletter. It will be pinned to the top of the video.
Man, I'm out of here, bro. Let's go.